Well, good morning. Granny Gear here for Old Guy on a Bike. Well, happily blinking away behind me here, mounted to the back of my Bosso SV test bike, is a Magene L508 rear-facing bicycle mounted radar. Now, I've been using this bike radar for a while now, and I've been watching how other people that I know in the groups, how they use their radar. It's been interesting, and I have some thoughts in this Tech Tuesday video on where I love this and, well, maybe where I'd leave it. Coming up. So real quickly, in case you haven't seen the other videos, this is a little L508 Magene rear-facing radar unit. That was something that was provided to me by Magene at no cost for my review and comments, and I'm not obligated to say anything nice. But so far, it's been a great little unit, and this was very, very well reviewed. Back when this came out, this isn't really new. People like DC Rainmaker, GP Llama, and others who do really nice, in-depth, really granular videos on how something like this works, they really liked it. They thought it was very comparable to the king of the hill in radar, which is the Garmin Varia. Most of the units that I see on bikes out there in the group, well, it's the Garmin unit, and it works really, really well. And you know what? So does this. It has a matching app for it. I believe it's the Magene Utility app. If that's wrong, I'll put it up. I haven't used it for a while. It allows you to basically do things like change the flash rate, change the flash pattern. You can rotate through this. You know, this, I have it on like big, bright daytime flash, but there's also, what did I do? I killed it? Yeah. So there's like steady state. There's, you can see different pulses, different glows, different things you can do. When you get into the Magene Utility app, you can change like how bright it is, whether or not the brake light works. It has an accelerometer, so when it senses you coming to a stop, like in the group, it'll give you a little brake light kind of flash, like it just did there. You can see that. Kind of hard to see on camera. It'll also blink rapidly if you want it to when the radar goes off, because it sensed the car, and I think that's pretty cool. As far as the general brightness of it compared to like my Bont Ranger blinkies, it's pretty good. It's better than most of the cheap blinkies on the market. You see people putting on their bikes that are just basically worthless in the daytime. It's not bad. I don't think it's quite as good as the Bont Ranger blinkies, but it's not bad. And it is adjustable. And you know, if you're in the Peloton or at night, you can turn it down to nice soft glow so you're not lasering everybody's eyes. But generally as a tail light, it works really well because it's also a brake light, and it also comes into that little flashy when it senses a car, which might get somebody's attention, and that's not bad. The mount it comes with is kind of a rubber bandy kind of a thing. It's not great. It works. It has a little rubber insert that allows it to fit different shaped seat posts pretty well. So I think an arrow post, this one's D-shaped. It actually works with that well, believe it or not. And a round post, of course, is no problem at all. And it comes with different size rubber bands that you could use, or they're O-rings kind of, right? It's kind of crude. It tends to get jogged out of place easy. That's not great. There is one, I can't remember who makes one. I'll put a link and I'll put it up on the screen because KOM Cycling, I think is who it is. They make one that looks like a BOA-ish dial that works for a radar unit. It's a Garmin basically mount. I think that's probably a worthwhile upgrade. I think it's 20-ish bucks or so. So I'm going to look into that for this unit, because one of these days what's going to happen, I'm just going to like lose the O-ring, and then where do I go buy an O-ring like that? It also comes with a nice little leash, which I think is lovely, because if it does, somehow the mount was to fail, the O-ring was to snap or something, you're not tossing this, which I think last I looked was 150 bucks. You're not going to just go toss this down the road. So that is the Magene L508. All right, let's get into using it, some idiosyncrasies, how it interacts with some of the other computers I've used, and where I'd love it, where I'd leave it, and what the group has done with this, which has been with radar, which I find kind of interesting. I've used this with two computers. This is the Magene C606. I'm not using that anymore, but when I was using it with this, it worked. It worked just fine. There's some things I think could have been better. The alert beep was almost too soft to hear sometimes. The color, didn't have a color bar on the side where the radar shows a car. It was just kind of grayish, sort of beige. That could have been better, but generally it worked okay with this. But I'm going to contrast it with how it worked with this computer right here. And this is a Coros Dura. And this was sent to me by Coros a while ago. I haven't done a video on this yet, but this thing, this is a fascinating little computer. I'm really enjoying it. And well, we'll get to what it's really, really good at in a little while. Of course, it's got the solar panel and the long battery life. It totally does. Anyway, more on that in its own video. The radar unit actually works better with the Dura than it did with the Magene C606, which is interesting because it's the same company, Magene. I don't know. And also I've noticed that Garmin and Wahoo, depending upon what computer you're using, you may get a slightly different response from the same radar, which I think is kind of interesting. I guess there's some handshaking going on in the computer. They don't all react the same. The beep on this is very, very loud. This tells you if the car is approaching quickly, and it's got a color bar on the side. It's much easier to see, and it'll beep at a different rate and a little louder, and so that's kind of nice. Anyway, so depending on what kind of computer you're using, it might be a little bit different experience with the radar. So let's talk a little bit daily using this thing. Let's talk about two things, false positives and false negatives. And you'll hear that when you're talking about somebody's reviewing radar. The false negative is basically it doesn't see a car. It doesn't tell you it's there, and it comes up on you and the radar never reacts, okay? Very few of those has that happened. It struggles with motorcycles a little bit. Sometimes it'll see them. If there's two of them, it'll usually see them. If there's one coming up, but I don't think that's a problem for me sharing the lane with a motorcycle. I want to know the truck and trailer, okay? I want to know he's there, and I want to know the sports car, but the motorcycle, that's okay. Other than that, I've had very, very, very few false negatives. If the road is extremely windy and the car can come around the corner on you and the radar just can't see it to the last minute, that can happen. Usually that isn't happening at high speed. I mean, it can't see around corners, right? Or if there's a rise in the road, it really can't see over the rise, etc. But generally speaking, false negatives have not been an issue with this computer or with the radar. False positives. Interestingly enough, with the Magene computer, I would get a lot of false positives when I'm riding in the group and maybe 3 or 4 riders are coming up on me. It would tell me there's a car there. Well, the problem with that is I'm on the bike path and I know there's no car there, or I hope at least there's no car there. And it would beep. It was odd. It would beep and show like there's going to be a car there, but not show the car icon. If I've heard the beep by then and I've looked, well, after a while, of course, I'm on the bike path. I just stopped looking. With the Dura, that happens much, much less, almost not at all, which is kind of interesting. Every once in a while, it'll think a bike coming up on me might be something to alert me on, but not very often. So that's pretty cool. The only other false positive that I see happening every once in a while, and I notice it more with the Dura, but maybe it did it with the Magene too. If a car is just past me, sometimes the radar will think for a second that it's a car coming up until it figures out the speed is going away from me and not coming toward me, all right? But occasionally, if a car passes me, it'll beep for a second and say, oh, there's a car coming, but it only lasts for a second or two and it'll clear. And I've kind of tuned in to what that is. Doesn't always do it. I don't know why it does it sometimes, not other than that. But other than that, I'm very, very pleased with how this Magene unit is working, especially with the Coros Dura. Now, interestingly enough, like I said, it seems to work differently with different computers. So I don't know what it's like for sure with a Wahoo or Garmin or a Hammerhead or Karoo or anything else that's out there, but expect maybe some subtleties that'll do something slightly different. So here's a question. What is your beep tolerance level? Well, what I mean by that is if your computer's nagging at you and is beeping every time a car is coming up on you and whatnot, well, does that really bug you or not? Well, it turns out it bugs Mrs. Granny here because I let her use this radar unit with her Wahoo Element Bolt. And when she came back to the ride, I said, hey, how was it? Because I was all excited at her using it. You know, I want to buy her one of these. She's like, oh, I hated it. It was just beep, 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 beep. And she just says, I just turned it off. I'm like, really? Well, using it with the Magene at the time, that beeping noise was so soft that I actually wished it was louder. With the Dura, it's louder. But she said it would beep at every car. If there was 3 cars, it would beep for every car. And she said it was ridiculous. I turned it off. I thought, okay. Now, here's another thing I observed. In the group, there's a lot of people using Garmin Varias, okay? I'd never heard one beep. I've been right next to people with radars, and mine's going off, and theirs isn't going off. And I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. It seems like most people have the audio alert for their radar in their computer in the app turned off. They have it on silent mode. Now on the Magene C606, I couldn't do that. I had to silence the computer completely. I would have no beep under any circumstance. So if it pauses, I get a text or whatever, it ain't gonna beep. In the Dura, I can go into the app and just silence the radar per accessory. In the Wahoo Element Bolt, same thing. I assume Garmin, probably the same thing. You can actually turn it off. And that seems to be the way that almost everybody has. They have the beep of their radar silenced. So here's the thing. Imagine your local fire department or police department emergency vehicle says, well, you know what? Those sirens, man, those are annoying to people. They don't want to hear that, you know, and so we're just going to run around with our flashy lights on when we need to, and they'll look in the mirror and they'll see us, they'll be aware they're there, and they'll get out of the way. That doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? Well, I'm not really sure if silencing something that's supposedly alerting you to a car coming up behind you, unless you're looking at your computer, you're not going to know it's there. I question the wisdom of that. Seems that you are defeating some of the safety features of the device. So you're big boys and girls, you can do whatever you want, but it does seem to be a strange thing. Now, it does not bother me. I want it to beep, okay? However, that brings us to the love it or leave it part. Where I love it, where I would probably leave it. Where I love using this radar is on solo rides for sure, small rides for sure, me and a couple people on open roads in the country where speeds are higher and car speeds are higher, etc., etc. I love it on winding descents and roads where I'm going fast enough and the wind in my ears and I'm paying attention to the curves. Maybe the road isn't very good. I got to watch my line and I'm wondering if I need to move out of the way for a pothole, or are there cars stacking up behind me who are anxious to pass, and I got to be aware of that. This is a wonderful tool in that situation, because not only on the open road does it have better eyes than I have ears, and that's very, very nice. It also tells me how many cars are there, so it's counting cars for me, so I don't have to assume there's more than one car there. This is going to give me a very good indication that it's never been wrong. So here's a little bit of video. Recently I did a ride. It's a 30-mile-an-hour descent on a winding road, and it's not much of a shoulder, and some of the potholes in the road make you want to maybe not stay that close to the edge. I don't really want to turn my head a whole lot and just keep looking to see if there's a car there, because I'm getting close to the side of the road as it is, and I'm no pro, so you know, it's not like I can take my hands off, turn around, and still go straight, you know what I'm saying? This is doing a great job of giving me some idea of whether there is a car there or not. Now, I'm still going to use my eyes. I'm still going to, before I make any kind of a passing move or anything like that, or make a left turn, I'm going to look, because I trust these still more than I trust this. But it is a tool, and it's a really good tool for that situation. Where might I leave this behind? Well, in the group, if our group rides are 20 to 30 people, all right? If we're in an urban environment, if we're on the bike path, if our roads are going to be, you know, the ride for the day, I know we're going to stay together in a group. This really isn't doing that much for me. For one thing, if I got 10 bikes behind me, it's not seeing a car very well anyway. So unless I'm in the back, and it's going to be maybe reacting to the bikes, like I said, sometimes, you know, I just don't need it. In that case, for me, it's just a decent tail light. Another place where I find this would be of little use to me, probably if I was in city riding. I mean, where I got cars around me all the time. I'm on a bike lane, but it's just full of traffic. Well, this thing's just going to be constantly telling you there's a car there. Well, you know what? It's a city. You've got cars there all the time. I don't see a need for this. I don't think it's doing that much for me. You need to be paying attention more to what's going on than you need to knowing there's a car behind you, because you can pretty much guarantee in the city, well, there's just always going to be a car behind you. That's where I would leave it. But for the way I ride, in the area I ride, it's way more love it than leave it, okay? And that is where I leave it. You know what? I'm glad I opened my mind to the thoughts of trying radar. Now, well, I'm thinking about opening my mind to things. Have you seen people riding with little mirrors, like on their helmets? I figured I would do that about the same time that I would ride my bike in white gym socks. You know what I'm saying? But recently I've seen some of the ones that attach to glasses, which makes more sense to me. I don't really want to glue a mirror to my aero helmet. I have that much a status in me, at least. But the ones on the glasses are interesting, and I'm curious to see what the feedback is. If you guys have tried that and you found that really, really good, let me know. That's interesting. I might try that because I can move that from glasses to glasses, and it's not on my helmet, which is kind of nice. Anyway, because I think that is an interesting combination. It's probably a compelling combination because you get the beep beep and you could just check. Maybe that'll win me over too. Who knows? Old dogs, new tricks. You guys have a great weekend or weekend. And as always, go ride your bikes and maybe open up your mind and, well, try a radar. You might just love it.